Oh, man. We're up. Oh. Hello, sportsmen. I hope you've had a good year in 1992. Better, I hope, than mine. But I tell you what, 1993 is going to be great. We're going to talk about the year 1993, what's coming up, how you can become more involved with this show, The Practical Sportsman. We're going to take a look at the first feature we put on of this new show, which was our Pheasant opener of 1992. We have some people to talk to about some new programs, things that I think are going to make the coming year more exciting than any in the past 10. So you stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's time for The Practical Sportsman. There we go. Well, folks, to start this New Year's show, I'm starting by the guide report map. This is where we're going to end up, and we're going to go through a series which shows how you can become more involved with this show in 1993, what the program is going to be about, some of the people involved in it. But first of all, let's take a look at least some of the first feature we did on the first Practical Sportsman show. Boy, we were so close to being in the middle of a ton of pheasants. Take a look at this.
And I'm not kidding when I say there were at least 75 pheasants that popped out of this one part of the field. Groups of 4 or 5 at a time flushing and sailing into the corn. Now, that continued for, 45 seconds or a minute, and it was continuous. Even though we weren't close enough for a shot, we were thrilled to see those pheasants popping out of this ideal roosting cover. It proved to me that those birds were there on opening day, when we avoided that thick grass that was so heavy and wet with snow.
10. Well, I guess they are.
Vinny, come on. Hey, ease up.
Where you find one pheasant, there's usually more. Brett missed, but at least we're getting closer to putting a rooster in the game bag. The way the weather has been this summer, the cool weather, Brett says the corn is behind in development, but it's ahead in height. That makes it almost impossible to hunt because the hunter can't see above the tassels. And because it's still early in the morning, the sun is just coming up, there should be a lot more pheasants in that roosting cover.
They could start popping out around us anytime. There we go. Okay, one down. Oh, he got the other one too. Well, I can have my limit here in just a second, John.
Good shoot.
They could be all around us.
I want to mention here that when you're walking or sometimes running after a bird, always keep the safety on and hold your finger along the receiver or around the stock. Never carry a gun with your finger on the trigger. That's a big no-no. Gun safety is something you always have to be conscious of all the time. Now, keep that in mind.
Oh, here we go. Oh, boy. Oh, it's not like we're not working for these birds, to tell you that. Man. Oh. Well, there's got to be a ton more left.
Let's put him in the game bag.
Yeah.
Well, I found my bird, but after 15 minutes of hard searching, Brett and the dog couldn't find the other one. Unfortunately, that can happen with pheasants in thick cover, which is why you have to get to a downed bird right away. And a dog can really help in locating downed game. Now, it just so happens that this same set-aside farmland where the grass grows thick after a couple years and hides nesting pheasants from predators, this same thick cover gives birds lots of hiding places after a hunter knocks one down. Now, the bird might only have 1 or 2 jumps left, but that can be enough for him to burrow someplace where he can't be found. And there's nothing that makes a hunter feel worse than taking game and not being able to find it. That's why you'll see me click the safety back on after shooting and hold the gun like a soldier and get to that bird as fast as possible. It's the most practical way to make sure you get game that you've put down.
There we go.
Here I go. The bird is flopping like a chicken with its head cut off. I don't want to waste any time getting there. Vinny isn't a real experienced retriever. He doesn't pick the pheasant up, but he keeps it marked at least. A good dog that can find downed game is probably worth more to a hunter than one that points game in the field.
All right.
Let me tell you, John, you have to work for these birds. Oh, this is a young one, though. It's not real heavy, so it's probably a young of the year, was born this spring. Ringneck pheasant. There should be more of them holding right here in the fence row.
That's the bird that's making a comeback, at least on the Conservation Reserve Program lands.
Well, that pheasant opener was something else, and here in the Practical Sportsman Museum are all types of dioramas. These are on loan from Tom Yarko, who, these were mounted by Brad Bruce, some really exciting dioramas of pheasants. A lot of different pheasant mounts, a lot of different birds. Doc Kane from Midland loaned us this exhibit, which Carl Christensen carved. It's actually an entire diorama underneath the ice, well, representing ice, of an ice fishing shanty. Quite a wild exhibit. We have different showcases here with artifacts, old equipment. We're putting together displays on new equipment. You got to take a look at this over here, John. This is the big spectacular deer exhibits we have. These are the albino buck on loan from Chris Stannard from Pinckney. Here's the one that Tom Barrett from Vermontville got that didn't rub off that antler, where we figured that maybe the velvet doesn't itch because he didn't rub that off. This Jose, what a famous exhibit. The Pittman family from Brooklyn loaned us Jose and his 15 sets of antlers he shed in his life. That was a pet deer. Here's the five-legged buck. We have caribou. Roger Smith did these caribou, and this grizzly bear. Let's walk right down here. One thing I might mention, if the lighting doesn't look real good to you, it shouldn't, because this is not lit for television. This is lit for people to walk through. The room we're going through right here is our fish room, which we have painted blue. And all of these are Emil Dean's fish here, Randy DeZormo. A lot of people have brought fish in on loan, all different species, but it makes an interesting exhibit of Michigan fish. Now, in the middle of the museum, we have, you recognize this is where we do the show every week. This is the studio for the Practical Sportsman. You can see where we do this. Here's some showcases. Again, the lighting is going to change radically, but we have spawning steelhead. It's actually a little spawn. John Hook, taxidermist John Hook, loaned us this one. He also has that 13.5-pound steelhead there. All kinds of birds, fish. There's that salmon I got in Alaska. Tim Hayes mounted that. We have that on loan from Tim Hayes. This is where Tim works, usually on Sundays. We're trying to get him up here more often than that, but this is his workbench, his taxidermy workbench. He's registered to do taxidermy work here. We can see some of the things. Some of these he's been working on. Other parts of this display show how taxidermy is done. A lot of these are mounts that are here waiting for customers. In fact, Tim says this moose right here, the customer doesn't have his house built yet, big enough to hold this moose. So that's what it's here for. But all kinds of birds and animals and fish on exhibit. Oh, look at this. Different awards I've won over the years, John. Okay. Here we are into the Practical Sportsman, I guess we call it gift shop. It's going to have more of the items that we've used on the show. Of course, you can buy the hats, T-shirts, things like that, and books. Now, speaking of books, here I have a very clever transition coming up right here. These are some of the cookbooks that we have. These cookbooks can contain recipes. This particular cookbook contains the recipe that Kathy Beitler and Eva Pecan have ready for you right now.
Eva Pecan won our recipe last year with a snowshoe jambalaya. And jambalaya is actually different than a stew. It's a little bit meatier. And there's definitely some meaty meat here.
Yeah, but a lot of people think that snowshoe hares are tough and they're not nearly as good as cottontail. I don't think that's true at all.
No, I don't either. Especially prepared this way in a pressure cooker. It'll break everything down really easy. You're going to add just a little bit of wine and water to the pressure cooker and then let it come up to pressure for about 20 minutes. And it just really tenderizes everything. You're going to saute some onion and green pepper and a little bit of rice. Right, and that's just minute rice.
Well, remember, jambalaya, this comes from down south.
Right.
The Cajun, the
Yep.
Louisiana stuff.
Got a little bit of sausage and a little bit of celery and some stewed tomatoes. And everything just goes into one pot here, and a little bit of garlic. And then once the meat is done, you're going to go ahead and add that to here. You're going to add a little bit of Tabasco in here. You could add or subtract if you wanted to. And some salt and pepper.
And wasn't that thyme
Thyme.
that you put in?
Right,
Salt
yep.
and pepper, Tabasco.
And then once the meat is cooked, you're just going to go ahead and debone it and then shred it. And then add it to the sauce.
It looks like an awful lot of meat
It is.
compared to the
And
vegetables.
like I say, it's jambalaya is just a meatier stew. It's a little bit drier.
But that appeals to a lot of people, and I know Eva Pecan experiments with recipes. I love finding out how she develops them.
I like to experiment with things, and I wanted something easy to cook and easy to serve, and that tasted good.
Did you get this off of Justin Wilson's
No.
Cajun Chef show? You did?
No, I made it up myself. Well, it's sort of based on a jambalaya.
So many people really say automatically they dislike rabbit or squirrel or whatever that I think if they ate it in this jambalaya recipe would be just tickled with it. So I imagine myself not necessarily on a grouse hunt, but I was in a cedar swamp hunting snowshoes somewhere between here and New Orleans.
Here's our man for 1993, and I hope for a long time on recipes, who's our chief taste tester, well qualified, I might add.
And this is not part of the job, it's a benefit of the job.
It's a benefit, that's right. Well, Charlie Keenan is a man who came aboard actually a couple years ago, started as a volunteer, and it's worked out. We've tried a number of things, Charlie, and of course our recipes are tremendously popular. We have him here in the Practical Sportsman magazine in this handy clip-out format. I want to mention that for people who want that recipe on snowshoe jambalaya because it is right in here. The main thing that Charlie is doing now for our Practical Sportsman organization is you have formed a new organization called the Federation of Michigan Sportsmen.
That's correct. And it's not your organization, it's not mine, it's a sportsman's organization.
Let me jump in here and explain something for just a second, folks. We've had people say over the years, Fred Trost, his name is all over the television show. The man's an egomaniac. I mean, he's, everything is Fred Trost, Fred Trost. That's why we had Fred Trost Outdoors Club, Fred Trost Outdoors Fair, Fred Trost this, Fred Trost that. A lot of you got sick of it. I really didn't like it myself. I was a little self-conscious about that, but that's why for all those years, Fred Trost was a part of all of these different names. But we have a new era. We have a magazine which the staff voted to stick my name on the top just so you know whose association it is. But the TV show, the magazine, the museum, all of this, the fair is going to be the Practical Sportsman Fair. So my Federation of Michigan Sportsmen. It's not mine, like you said. You're the man who's running it, though.
I'm going to run it, but it's not mine either.
You're going to talk about any environmental things?
No. We want to develop a fishing and hunting agenda, something the DNR is not doing at the commission meetings right now.
Okay, so that's the problem.
That's right.
We have here in the magazine an opinion poll. This is opinion poll number 1 for our Practical Sportsman magazine.
Politics out of this thing. We don't want people caucusing over in the corner, putting deals together. We just want to develop the agenda, and then we will have the president's vote on it.
And we want to come up with maybe the 5 top issues that most sportsmen feel the strongest about, and then what?
Then we're going to go in and we're going to set these priorities 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then what?
Then we're going to go in and work on them and hammer the DNR until our priorities are heard and they do something about it.
Now, when you say our priorities, you're talking about Charlie Keenan's Federation of Michigan Sportsmen, of these people who want to participate.
That's correct.
That's what, when people ask me what this federation is all about, it's a depoliticized, pro-hunting, fishing, and pro-gun organization.
That's right.
That wants to involve clubs. Doug, you do a number of things. You, of course, sell the advertising in the Practical Sportsman magazine. But as far as the television show goes, we got questions from people like, how do I get on the outdoor calendar? Outdoor calendar, we're at the end of the year. Like nothing happening this week.
Not a whole lot around Christmas and New Year's.
No, we don't. You say we're going to put a trophy book out this spring?
In our April-May issue, we'll have a trophy book with the fish awards that we've handed out. That'll be enclosed right in the magazine, the Practical Sportsman magazine. And then in our October-November '93 issue, we'll have our hunting awards.
Okay.
People in there.
So this is how we're going to handle our trophy book, people in the future. You can look in this and find out where and how and when.
We've also, we have a lot of calls on Friday mornings, and with our shortage of phones around here, sometimes we can't get to the phone all the time. So we've started a new thing in the magazine, too, where we are also listing a calendar of events along with the clubs that are holding them.
Contact Doug about becoming involved. This also, you can tie in with the Federation of Michigan Sportsmen this way, but this has the addresses, phone numbers, and everything. You decide who you're going to call to get this information.
Well, I like to get a look from all over the state, so I've instituted some new people that I'm calling. Kathy always did the calling before. She did a great job. I thought she hit the same areas too much. I want to get into some different areas of the state. As you know, I like to fish. Part of fishing is being there when the fish are biting. I feel by calling all over the state and getting my reports there, I can get fresh reports for you so that we can tell you on Thursday the fish are biting. If you go there Friday,
hold it though, Doug.
We hope you're going to catch some.
As we've talked about, fresh reports are one thing. We have what we call Chamber of Commerce-y reports. Now, we do work with two chambers of commerce. One is Cadillac Chamber of Commerce in particular, and the Tawas Chamber of Commerce. They look at no ice on bay, ice not safe, no pike perch or walleye. Captain Emil Dean said 2 weeks ago, fishing turned off. He didn't catch anything.
To not only being fresh, I want it to be accurate too. If we tell you that the fish are biting here and you go there, we want you to catch fish.
Well, and of course, you get this information on a Tuesday or Wednesday. We tell you how it was. No guarantees for tomorrow.
No guarantees. No, we've all been there.
Yes, indeed, and it happens. Every
Should
place,
have been here yesterday.
every place we go, we're guaranteed to catch limits, and we oftentimes don't. But that's hunting and fishing. Well, this has been the wrap-up, our New Year's show for the Practical Sportsman. I know we've explained a lot, we've spent time in the studio, but we're looking towards the 1993 where we're out in the field. In fact, we're going to be going to a lot of these different locations, new locations.
New locations.
But let's mention one thing, hot spots. You people want to know where the little hot spots are?
No, we're not. We're not going to give that information away.
No, we
Come
give
on.
away general spots. In fact, most of the time, John Ford and I have to make a deal with the people we're hunting or fishing with that we don't give away the hot spot. The show in the coming year is going to be very practical, a lot of how-to information, how you can become involved. You can if you're a club, if you're an individual. We have all kinds of ways of doing it. Doug Tabor, welcome aboard. Charlie Keenan over there. Kathy Beitler, the whole staff. We appreciate everybody's help and especially your support, not only of this show and of our magazine, but of public television. Public television, thank you so much for keeping us on. Let's look for a great 1993. So truly, folks, get a smile on your face like I've been able to do and have a happy new year. Well, the name of our television show, The Practical Sportsman, same as the name of our brand new magazine, Volume 1, Number 1. The difference between this and the other magazine we put out for a number of years is the number of articles, Number 1. We have a lot of shorter articles on more subjects, especially for the shooting sports. Crank open